I'll say, hey, what are your goals? And you'll start like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this event. I want to do this. It's like 8 goals. And then it's like, cool. So what projects are you working on? Well, I'm going to these 18 trade shows and 17 podcasts, and I'm building a website at my lead magnet, and I have 10 clients. And it's like, Notion's not overwhelming. Teams isn't overwhelming. You're overwhelming.
We're your co-hosts, Vicky and Laura, and this is the Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast, the ultimate guide for ambitious business founders and startups. Hear from business heroes who faced unexpected challenges as we unpack how they slayed their dragon and reignite your instinct to conquer your dragon.
So much of who we become is shaped by our childhood experiences, right? So tell us a bit about what childhood was like for you, and was there entrepreneurship in those days?
Yeah, entrepreneurship started at 18, actually, when I threw my first party. I threw a party, made $25,000 in one night, and said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I saw an opportunity in the marketplace where people were throwing parties in these warehouses. They were selling tickets for like $15. They were overselling the capacity, and we couldn't get in. And so I said, when I'm going to be a senior, I'm going to throw a better party. So I found one of the nicest clubs in South Florida, rented it out, found a partner who knew a bunch of people, and with 15 promoters, we sold 2,000 tickets and had a great night.
I love that. That is entrepreneurial. And how did that springboard your other entrepreneurial ventures?
So I met a guy who owned 6 restaurants, and I said, I want to be like this guy. And I went off to college, and about halfway through college, I started my first food company. I was making panini pressed ice cream sandwiches, and I would deliver them around college campus. And then from that, I started baking challah bread, which is like a Jewish brioche. Then I kind of kept side hustling. For 10 years, I was working in restaurants and tech and startups and just different jobs until in 2020, I said, you know what? I wrote my book and I realized it was time to become a full-time entrepreneur, and I started my company.
So tell us, like, what led to writing the book? Like, what was the inspiration for that? Or
When I was working in the restaurants, I was doing operational analysis. I was doing technology. No one was really giving me guidance. No one was giving me direction. And so I wanted to write a book with all the lessons that I learned to pass it to the next person who would need it. And through writing, the message had kind of shifted a little bit. And instead of just passing a guidebook, it kind of became about creating your unique intersection and expressing that through the world, dressed up in beautiful language about the bees and honey and all that stuff. But we are all like bees. We're all creating this unique offering for the world. Sometimes we share it through a job. Sometimes we share it through a product, a service, a book, an experience. And it's our responsibility to find that unique distinction and make it and then share it with people. And so that became the message for the book, and ultimately the foundation of my company that I launched.
This is a thing. This isn't just me thinking my past shapes me and my future. How do you help people to get connected with those past pieces that help them decide and shape their future?
Yeah, well, I don't get too deep in the personal coaching emotional side. I typically work with people who already have a product or an offer. But if I were to answer the question, I think it's about just reflecting and taking an inventory of all of these different experiences that you had. Just having that list of 10 breakthrough moments in your life. Now that you have that list down on paper, like you're one step closer. You're a significant step closer to seeing the patterns between those.
wasn't it Steve Jobs who said in that college commencement speech that you can only connect the dots looking backwards, never forwards? And one thing that always stands out for me is that because he took a typography class in college, and if everybody doesn't know what typography is, it's literally just the study of fonts and type and, the beauty of them, the design of them, and the meaning behind it. And if he hadn't taken that, then the MacBook wouldn't be what it is today, because he put so much emphasis on the design and the beauty and the quality of it rather than the functionality. And that's what made Mac stand apart. And, I've been a passionate Mac user my entire life, of course, since
Same.
then. But yeah, it's fascinating because I think had he not taken that course, what difference might it have made to what we have today? It's those little things. And it was such a random course that he did. And a lot of kids maybe listening now who are in university, and I want to say, like, take that strange elective class. I took a psychology class when I was a graphic design major, and it was the best thing I ever did because it was fascinating learning about people and what makes them different and think differently and act differently. And that understanding of people helped me understand relationships with clients that I needed to have later on down my career. So it's
Mhm.
interesting. I think this conversation is really interesting because I don't think people definitely look back and see what great things they got out of their different experiences, choices in life that make them so unique and can give them that superpower that nobody else has, because we're all a combination of our life experiences, right?
Yeah. I think because I know your audience is earlier stage entrepreneurs and they're listening to the conversation like, oh, great, carte blanche. I can be everywhere. I can be a disorganized mess. Like I can do all the things. And that's not exactly what I'm saying. The differentiator are going to be those entrepreneurs who can go there and then bring something back and integrate back an insight. You interview the customer and then bring something back to the product. And most people, I think, they're missing out on the integrating back. They're just in the hoarding mode. They're just collecting like badges of honor. It's like newsletters. They're collecting and getting overwhelmed and then like showing the overwhelm. But that's not exactly the point in being everywhere and being like the bee.
Yeah, important message. So tell us more about that, the intersection and the integration. What's the key to that being done well?
Well, the key is being very focused. When you start a business, when you launch, have very clear, specific objectives that you are pursuing. If your objectives are to build a website, reach out to 300 people in your network, and attend 5 trade shows, don't spend time on Instagram. Don't spend time reading about psychology.
Yeah.
Don't start writing a book if your goal is reach out to 300 people.
Yeah.
So many people don't set the goal. Like the goal is it's like the filter through which everything should pass through. They set the goal. It's like, oh, I launched a website, and then they launch the website, and then they don't reset the goal.
I think I can definitely say in my past, that was something I struggled a lot with. I'm such a builder. I'm such a creative mind that, like, it's hard to just, I have to do the work. I have to get the thing done. I've got to do the hard stuff, And it's like, but I want to do the next creative thing. I want to brainstorm. I want to come up with something new. And it is very hard to sometimes sit down and set those goals and focus on those. I think the key is focus on those first. And then you can get on to the next thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then you can get on to the next. I mean, I think you work in a partnership, both of you. And sometimes most entrepreneurs are actually alone. They're working alone, but there's two energies inside of a company. There's one of expansion and one of efficiency. And the expansion side is kind of the creative side. I want to get out there. I want to like drive more sales. But they stay too much in the expansion. They don't go back to the efficiency side, and it spirals out of control. There's too much expansion happening and there's no place to contain all of it. So it's kind of being aware of those two energies inside of your company. I mentioned the goals. The goals, it serves as a filter to expand, but it keeps you being efficient with your time.
And in the moment where one gets excited by a shiny object or a pretty new flower, using the bee analogy, what does one ask ourselves? What can we do to remember to stay focused?
Is it in the goals? Is it on my top 3? Is it in my priorities?
And how often do you set your goals? How often do you check in with
Every
yourself on
week.
your goals? Every
Every
week.
week, I look at my goals. I set priorities on a quarterly basis. I reset priorities on a quarterly basis. And every week, as I'm kind of marching towards those priorities, I revisit those priorities. I look at my priorities. I look at the people that I'm connecting with, I look at the projects I'm working on. I'm looking at all the promotions that I'm creating, the playbooks that I'm writing and building to delegate. And yeah, I'm just keeping it all together every single week.
So, as a baker, you're a bit of a whiz in the kitchen, I understand. So, I'm imagining that you've got all these things going on in the kitchen and you know exactly when this one's going to be ready and, you know, keeping an eye on that one. Is it a bit like that?
Yeah, it's like when you're in a meal, when you're in a restaurant and the cook has like 6 different meals that he's cooking simultaneously, he's aware of all of them. And so with the work that I do with setting up business systems, it's around creating that awareness for entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur needs to be the salesperson, the marketer, the client experience person, the bookkeeper, like needs to be aware of everything. And the biggest challenge comes when they just have no tools. They're running their business on a journal or their emails or their WhatsApps, and that's just not sustainable. So when you have to increase your level of awareness for all the moving pieces, you have to have a system that keeps the clarity over everything without overwhelming yourself, of course. Yeah, I actually am curious. At what point do entrepreneurs stop calling themselves early?
Ha.
That is a good question. What do you say, Vicky? I'll let you start first.
Oh yeah, great. Just pop me in the hot water. Look, I'm going to say that it is individual. I don't think there's a prescription for this. Now we know in the industry, right, that as the business grows, it's about number of employees, amount of revenue. There's those benchmarks that take you from startup to build to grow, startup, build, grow, and then scale. So there's that structure. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take it on a more personal level. And I think it's up to the person's mindset as to when they decide that they're actually doing the thing that they dreamed of doing.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
quite easy just to fumble along and say, oh, I'm an early stage business. I'm an early stage business. You can do that for 10 years
Right.
because you're not taking it seriously. You're not doing the things that you've talked about, Ernesto. You're not delegating. You're not building a team. And you're not seeing it as a business. It becomes a bit of a hobby. And that's a trap people can fall into.
Yeah.
I think it's a great question, one that we should probably all be asking ourselves.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer it better than what Vicky just said, for sure, because I do think it's quite individual. And I think it's when you are serious about your business and you take ownership of it. And probably when you're profitable, I think that's got to be a bit of a factor because sometimes it's easy to use early stage is when you're still fundraising, you know, or trying to raise the capital that you might need if you need to raise it to you know start the business. Early stage is that, but I think definitely it serves people differently, and I think different people react to you differently when you're early stage versus when you are established.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be up to the business owner, the entrepreneur, to make that distinction for themselves. That's a tough question to answer. It really is. I'd like to talk to other people. We may have to throw that question in our guest lineup of questions because
Yeah.
I'd like to hear some other perspectives on this for sure. For sure. It's a really good question. Why did you ask that particular question? I'm curious.
I've been working with a coach in Israel. It teaches a lot about emotions and just emotional awareness. And here I am. I shared with you through this rebrand that I've like raised my prices. I've raised the vibration. And she basically helped me realize like your life and your business and everything that you're creating is a manifestation of what you believe. And so the whole like early stage, it's like, is the person just like in scarcity, waiting for some moment, or do they create the moment?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You really have to think about that, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
100% with you on that.
and
It's
then
it's a really good insight.
when I teach about progress and measuring your progress, and you don't measure based on revenue collected. You don't measure based on the discovery calls that you had. You don't measure based off of the likes or the followers or any of the lagging indicators. It's all like based on the leading indicators. And if last month you did 100 calls, this month you got to do 125 or 150. Like if you're increasing your own personal capacity, then you are crushing it. And so I don't know at what point like you go past early or not. Like it's just about continuing to increase.
Hang on, hold that thought. I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to take 15 seconds of your time to thank you for being a part of this growing community of resilient entrepreneurs. If you could do us just one massive favor and subscribe, you'll be notified of the next great episode of this podcast. And speaking of great episodes, let's get right back to it.
It could well be something that we hide behind as early stage business owners,
For sure.
because what we speak is what manifests. So if we're always saying early stage business owners, and to Laura's point, people interact with you differently when you're early stage. Do you want them interacting with you like that, or do you want them interacting with you as if you were Richard Branson or Oprah Winfrey?
Mm-hmm. Established, confident, the business is trustworthy because it's tried, tested, and true. It's a very different mindset. And I'll share, when I was started out as an entrepreneur, I called myself a freelancer, and
Right.
nothing more than on the email, right, that I would send to clients. And it wasn't until I shifted the smallest thing. I took out freelancer and put in owner and gave myself a business name. And that's the only shift I did. But the difference in responses showed me and taught me that it's just a tiny thing, but the way people responded to me was hugely different.
Yeah.
I went from like a little side gig person that was maybe doing something on the side, which I wasn't. I was full-time doing this thing. But I went from that to like owning a business, and nobody knew that was just me in the business. I didn't have any staff. It was just me, but I was an owner of a business. And that was a mindset shift. I think that it had helped me personally as well, because I took my own business more seriously when I did that.
Yep.
And I think that huge. Yeah, it was huge.
And it's people will respect you the way you respect yourself. You respected yourself differently in that instant, and people respond accordingly. And that's what Ernesto is saying too. I love that.
Do you mostly work with solo entrepreneurs on this, or is this for bigger scale companies?
No, I have quite a number of solo entrepreneurs. They have VAs. The trick is usually the visionary, the solo entrepreneur is the visionary, and they get to recognize that they're not operators, and they get to bring on a VA and empower that VA or a ops manager, a team member on shore, or whatever, with the responsibility of owning the system, of owning the project management tool, of owning everything that we put inside of the system that we build out, while they can go out and do the expansion side. They focus on expansion, the operator focuses on efficiency, and that's the beautiful partnership that I help people create in their businesses.
Can we lean into the systems, some of the systems that you suggest? And the reason I'm asking this is because we've had multiple conversations with various clients and our audience, and they say, I really want a system. I want the structure of a system. I want the container that gives me. But then I look at Notion and it overwhelms me. I look at Teamwork and it overwhelms me. I looking at all this stuff that they can subscribe to as a system. Like, where does one start, and how does one choose or know what to use without being overwhelmed?
Well, I must start with, I am a Notion savant, so I am a big lover of the tool.
It is fabulous.
I would encourage people to say, like, the tool is not the thing that's overwhelming, because I'll say, hey, what are your goals? And you'll start like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this event. I want to do this. It's like 8 goals. And then it's like, cool. So what projects are you working on? Well, I'm going to these 18 trade shows and 17 podcasts, and I'm building a website at my lead magnet, and I have 10 clients. And it's like, Notion's not overwhelming. Teams isn't overwhelming. You're overwhelming.
I think it's so accurate. Yeah.
I have an exercise in my program. It's like, hey, list out all your internal initiatives. Like, I have a client who opened it up once and it was 32. It's like, what are you doing? 32 good ideas that she's trying. It's like, oh, I'm not getting anything done. I'm so overwhelmed. I have back-to-back meetings. I'm like, yeah, because you're trying to do 32 projects.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. I thought I was bad, but that's way that's a lot. That is overwhelming. I think it's easy as an entrepreneur to get caught up in all of that working, in the business, and instead of stepping back and working on the business. It's something we've definitely had lots of conversations about, Vicky and I as a partnership, and with others, about how do you step back and you feel like there's so much that needs to get done. How do you, like you said, be the visionary, be the one to do the expansion while also getting the systems in place? It's a really difficult challenge, and one that a lot of people struggle with, and maybe one that a lot of people quit over because it just becomes too overwhelming. That's our mission, to try to help people not quit.
Yeah, well, when you are a solopreneur, it is lonely. And when you are a solopreneur trying to figure out systems, forget it. Forget it. I mean, you two at least work together. You could commiserate together and,
Exactly.
delegate and maybe figure it out. You encourage each other. But most people, they work alone. And so when I design my programs, all of my programs are group coaching, like group programs where I'm taking everyone along the same journey on the same lessons, the same modules. So when we're in a group of 10 people and everyone's asking the questions, it's kind of like we're all business partners in a sense, asking, oh, you set 19 goals before cutting down to 3? Me too. But now I have 3. So, everyone's kind of seeing each other's BS when they're trying to become organized. And it's quite fun. Everyone realizes, even though they're different businesses, we're all on the same journey.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think the key is that community. I think it's so valuable because often entrepreneurs, especially when they start out, the people around them think they're crazy. So finding the community of people who do get it, who are in there with it, who are in the trenches with you, having the same issues as you, because you're right. I think you make a really good point there. That's key, is that we can create any business, any product, any service. At the end of the day, you're still going to have almost all the same problems as the other entrepreneur doing something completely different, right?
Ernesto, you also talked about a playbook for delegation. How important is delegation?
Well, it's everything. It's letting go. And that's what the solopreneurs struggle with the most. My core system that I set people up with, it's called the 6P system. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, with your priorities, your people, your projects, your promotion, your playbooks, and your planning. And these are the 6 main pillars of every business. The first thing an entrepreneur can do to free up their time is to delegate the management of all of this information. And so part of what I do with people is help these owners just identify all of it. Identify the priorities, identify the people, identify when you're going to check in with them next, the initiatives, the tasks, the content that they're doing, everything. Put it down on paper and put it in their Notion systems. And after 3 months, they have something that they can give to someone else to delegate to so that they can own it, so that the founder can exclusively focus on growth instead of trying to wear all the hats and do all the things. They can exclusively focus on growth, be in their unique ability, and attract new people to the company. And that's what they can bring the new life force to the business.
What kind of success stories have you seen with that?
Well, one coach that I've worked with, we got him set up on the 6P system. After setting up his system, we also changed his coaching vehicle. He was, instead of working one-to-one, we productized a course of his, and he was able to work with 15 people at a time without freaking out about the notes and the tasks and the follow-ups and everything. It's all kind of in one place. And he has a VA who's helping him now just keep track of his content. And he's now 3 months ahead of today. We all want to be 3 months ahead on the content hamster wheel. Yeah.
That's how you get a break as an entrepreneur, people. You got to get ahead with your stuff.
Ernesto's going to say, yeah, you need to be a year ahead before you take a holiday.
No. I say take a holiday. I'm going to Italy in 2 weeks, and I'm not 3 months ahead. I'm exactly where I need to be.
Yeah, I love that. What's your view on failure? Is there such a thing?
I like to say that failure is finding an alternative insight that leads you to redirect your energy.
Oh, I love it.
Is my definition of failure.
Haven't heard that one before.
Yeah,
Love it.
that's some deep ChatGPT acronym building there.
Yeah.
No, I did not use ChatGPT, but no, I think every failure, just there's a lesson there, and if we are present enough to think about it, or patient enough to wait for it, because you might not get it in the moment, you might understand years later.
Yeah, it's true. It's always hard in the moment, right? It's hard for a multitude of reasons, for our ego, for maybe financially, there's things that happen, but absolutely lessons come later. Now, you just mentioned ChatGPT, so we should talk about AI and technology as it pertains to systems. What do you see as the future? Like, do you see anything big coming along that should be helpful?
You know, everyone's like, oh, how's AI going to impact the future? And a lot of people are like, how are you going to use AI to like increase your efficiency? And it's like, increase the efficiency of the 32 projects? I think a lot of people are missing the fundamentals. Sure, ChatGPT is great. Use it, learn it. Does it ladder up to your 3 priorities that you set for yourself? If not, don't spend 3 hours on YouTube figuring out how to customize your instructions so that it sounds like your voice. If you're trying to prospect, who cares about the content that you're creating? So it goes back to your 3 priorities. It goes back to the fundamentals of being organized. And then, yeah, eventually, like when you have a team and you have consistent sales and you have a VA working for you, like, yeah, the VA can use ChatGPT, but you as the owner need to get out there and sell. You sell a lot faster in person.
If you're already overwhelmed, I think technology just overwhelms you more. So when you start on ChatGPT and you're already overwhelmed with what you need to do, you're not going to get the best out of it. You're just going to get more because it's going to just add more to everything you're already doing.
Yeah, give you 32 action items that you didn't have on your list before.
And now it's 64.
Not 64, but you didn't know because your action item list was on your Apple Notes, your WhatsApps, your emails, and your Trello board. So, you know, keep putting all of that. Like really, it's really about collapsing and consolidating and simplifying and putting less tools. Less is more.
So do you recommend just one? Like people just get rid of having 5 different tools and just get one?
There is no one tool, but I collapse for like when I work with clients, we get everything set up on Notion. Content, projects, goals, tasks, playbooks, weekly plan, everything's in Notion. Of course, you still have an automated email tool that you use. You still have accounting tools, but everything is on Notion. So it keeps the focus in one place.
Makes sense. When they're going to build the tool that does everything, that does the accounting and everything, they'll consolidate Canva and WhatsApp and
the unicorn is not out there.
No, it isn't, and probably shouldn't be, because I think the lesson is that you shouldn't be necessarily doing all these things. You shouldn't probably be doing the Canva and the QuickBooks as well. Like maybe it's time to delegate these things, because entrepreneurs are the ones who create businesses, right? And we create employees. We give other people opportunities for success as well, and we should remember that. That's a great thing. Right? Every business, no matter what size, was created by an entrepreneur at some stage. So we should remember this and feel honored that we have the privilege of being the one to create something and to help someone else be successful too. So while we're here worrying about, I can do it all myself, meanwhile, you're robbing somebody else of the chance to help and grow and build alongside you. Exactly. I'm lucky that I have Vicky as a partner, and we have an amazing VA as well. And it has been a great team. It makes a big difference having a team. Definitely. I was a solo entrepreneur for a long time. So yeah, this is much better.
Yeah. And also, Ernesto, you talked about sales. You've mentioned it a few times. Obviously, that's without sales, you don't have a business. Do you support the people who work with you in how to sell?
I don't teach sales strategy. There's plenty of talented sales professionals out there. What I teach, though, is, hey, if you have a list of contacts, everyone should have a next check-in date. Everyone should have a next action. You should organize them based on the phases of a pipeline. Create a mental picture in your head that from sourcing to close, it's around 3 months. So got to look at that age just to make sure like it's moving accordingly. If not, like something's up. So I don't really work on the art of sale, but more on the science of a sale.
Just the way you've described that is different to how we have had other guests describe sales, and I'm really enjoying this engineering system thinking to every aspect of business.
You're the systems guy. Let's put the system in place. I love it. I love it. What would you say you're most proud of in your business career, your entrepreneurial career so far?
Well, I actually rebranded my business less than 2 months ago. It used to be called CPD Advisors. Wasn't really ringing true for people. It's now called the $1 Million Machine. And I have totally re-engineered everything, all the websites, the digital platforms, everything in less than 2 months. It's kind of like this pivoting. Entrepreneurs are pivoting all the time. Like that has definitely been the fastest pivot in my life. And it feels amazing. It's like a whole new energy now.
Amazing. That is pretty impressive. As marketing people will tell you, a rebrand in 2 months is not an easy feat. Not an easy feat. And what has been the impact so far since the rebrand?
Well, a lot more people interested. A lot more people are like, oh, how do I get $1 million machine? What does it look like? I've been able to raise my prices. I've sold my first 5+ figure deal. I've raised my prices to like just recognize the value in what I do. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of more leads, a lot more conversations, a new product journey, a lot of good vibes.
Congratulations. That's massive. That is a big switch. You not just rebranded, but you reshaped your business and you're already seeing results just 2 months in. That's phenomenal. You're walking your talk. You must have been hyper focused on that to get that done in 2 months.
Yes, definitely.
Is there another book in the works? Well, that sounds like a book. That
yes.
sounds like a great book title.
There is. I actually, so if people come to my website, they go to the first button. It's like calculate your potential. And I ask them 5 questions. And with those 5 questions, I say, how much money did you make last year? How many clients did you serve? How many calls a week do you book? Discovery calls. And how many people are on your email list? And the last question is, how much revenue do you want to make in the next 12 months? So basically, I take those 4 key numbers, and with revenue and clients that you serve, you get average revenue per client. And with clients you served and discovery calls, you get a conversion percentage. And with discovery calls and email subscribers, you get a booking rate utilization. So these are the 6 numbers that make up your growth scorecard. So I believe that every business owner, their focus needs to be on improving that growth scorecard. They need to be getting more email subscribers. They need to be getting more discovery calls. And to focus on that, they need to pick those 3 priorities. Those 3 priorities drive the actions that they're taking every day. So anyways, long-winded way of saying my next book is going to be about those 6 numbers, what they are, and how you could impact those 6 numbers, which open up the conversation of everyone needs a business system to delegate all the actions that happen to increase those numbers.
Sounds like a great book. Can't wait for it.
It'll be out by October 1st.
Good man.
Oh, wow. Oh, yes. Wow. Okay, that's soon.
I'm declaring it. The completion of my rebrand will be on October 1st. And announce a new visual identity. And I will be announcing my first in-person event in December. So I've got a busy couple of months ahead of me.
So that sounds like your top 3.
Huh?
That sounds like that's your top 3.
Yep. Exactly.
I love that. We say nothing like a deadline to sharpen the mind. And I think in your case, it's, nothing like a very focused goal to motivate and to accelerate, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Amen. Yes.
Business is a very interesting journey, and it's a personal journey. And that's something we definitely discovered on this podcast, is talking to so many incredible business owners like you, Ernesto, about these kinds of topics. It's the personal journey is the one that we all undertake when we set off to be an entrepreneur, because We don't start off understanding ourselves at this depth or business at this depth, and you have to go through it. You have to figure it all out. You have to use books. You have to listen to podcasts. You have to get a coach or a consultant or a partner to help you progress forward. It's definitely in the community, like you mentioned, is such a big factor. Getting other entrepreneurs around you, helping to understand that they're on the same journey, the same path, just in a slightly different way, so that you can move ahead. And I love the conversation we've had today about systems, because I think it's a big piece of the puzzle that a lot of us creative entrepreneurs especially miss: the systems. Slow it down, simplify it. Everything you've said, I think, has been such an impact for business owners at any stage, really, because I think some of the biggest businesses still struggle with this. Really so appreciate your time. This was a really, really insightful, wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on Resilient Entrepreneurs.
I had fun. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.